discretion is advised.
Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well then, hello everybody, and welcome to another evening of the Ben&Grem Show. Hello, Grem.
Good evening, everybody. I'm fine. How are you, Ben?
Well, yeah, not too bad, Grem. I'm living the dream, as they say. I mean, everybody's got to have a dream, haven't they? I think that's mostly important. But I've got a bit of a problem, you see, because, well, where do I start, guys? Where do I start? Well, I'm going to start with a news article that I've seen recently. In fact, within the last week, Grem. BBC. It was a news article that came about on a Saturday 22nd of August, Grem. And it was about a leader of a council, of Oldham Council. And the leader was Sam Fielding. Okay. Now, Sam Fielding had announced that there was going to be some lockdown rules to be implemented upon the district or area of Oldham Council. But little did he realise, let's say, that by making the necessary lockdown rules be put into place at that point, Grem, they were already put in place. And it was only until he realised this was a bit of a blunder that it was that evening, the Saturday evening, that he realised, well, hang on a minute, what day is it? When is it? Is it next Saturday or this Saturday? And that brings me to my point, Grem, is when you take a Saturday, yeah, and somebody says to you, what is the Saturday you're referring to? So if you say next Saturday, does that mean this very Saturday coming, this Saturday, or does it mean the next Saturday after, Grem? I mean, do you understand this?
It is rather a confusing one, isn't it, viewers? Ben, yes. Well, I've always believed it to be when somebody says this Saturday, then it's this coming Saturday, because it hasn't happened yet. If Saturday's already gone, then they're obviously talking ahead, aren't they?
Yes.
Do you think that?
Yeah, I agree with you, Grem. I see what you're saying. But the thing is, I mean, you could ask yourself, how can somebody like Sean Fielding make such a blunder, you know, being of the level that he is, the stature of the person of which he is, you know. So he's a leader of Oldham Council, and he's announced lockdown rules to be put into place, although they were already in place. He didn't realise that at the time, and that was the government that had obviously put these rules in place initially. So he, be it the local government aspect of or level, has initiated these rules, and of course actually they don't need to exist because simply they're already in place. But how can somebody of that level make that sort of mistake? And the point also, Grem, is we always have these arguments, don't we, with our loved ones, you know, about, oh, I'll see you next week, or I'll see you well, let's say next week, but if you say, see you next Saturday, or do you mean, I'll see you this Saturday? It's a question that actually rattles many brains, and it certainly rattles mine. If somebody says to me, Ben, I'll see you next week, I understand that's next week, and not necessarily this week. Even if you've got a day that you're meant to be meeting next week, this week, but automatically you think next week. But when you hear this week, or like this Saturday, unless you got the Saturday that you're at on the day you're at, then you know what I mean? Do you understand what I'm saying? So if it's next Saturday...
Yes, I do, Ben, yes. I mean, maybe slightly cancelling out a little bit of what I've mentioned earlier. Maybe it should be, in that instance, this Saturday coming. So it means the next Saturday... the Saturday that is happening. See, I'm doing it myself. It's quite a difficult one, and I think maybe the news reporter made the error because of midnight. It is quite a confusing aspect of the discussion, really. The fact of, the midnight, saying midnight.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, that makes good sense. I get where you're going with that, and the thing is, Graham, is it? Yeah, where do you depict midnight? I mean, is it midnight, as in 12 o'clock in the evening? Because actually, technically, depending on how you look at it, 12 o'clock in the evening could actually be 12 o'clock in the morning, right? Because it's right in the middle. So this guy, the leader of Oldham Council, of course, he's put out the news, which, as far as he was concerned, was meant to be implemented that evening at midnight. But in fact, it wasn't midnight, was it? Because obviously they were already implemented. Little did he realise, and a blunder that it was. But actually, if you say it's going to be implemented at midnight, well, when does midnight start? This is the issue, isn't it? This is the issue. When does midnight start, Graham?
Oh, 0000. The 24-hour clock. But as they say, tomorrow never comes. So really, midnight is a phrase that is pointless in a way, isn't it? I suppose maybe 11:59, 23:59, and 59 seconds, and it's somewhere in between.
Yeah.
It is a confusing one, and we could have a discussion about this. Well, on and on and on, couldn't we?
Of course we could. Of course we could.
Never,
but we're not going to do
never
that because
actually ever get to an answer.
Well, this is it. I think you could go round and round in circles, couldn't you, Graham? I mean, ultimately, it depends on how you perceive it. Whether it's, you say midnight. I mean, when is midnight? When does it start? It depends on what sort of lifestyle you lead. If you're a night worker, it's all over the place, isn't it, Graham? You know what I mean? So I suppose it really depends on the sort of person that you are. But I think when people say next,
yes.
For me, this is me now, Graham. When I say next Saturday, I think the very Saturday that you're due to have. But actually, I think many people commonly would know it as Saturday after next. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think. Anyway, guys, what do you think about that? That's what I want to say. Graham, what's our first topic?
Well, Ben and viewers, our first topic is about Harper's Law. It is important to understand, though, all the facts surrounding this first. Before we go into the topic itself, I must point out and warn the viewers that some of the content of this is rather shocking and quite upsetting. Right, this story of Andrew James Harper, born the 22nd of March 1991. He grew up in a historic town of Wallingford in Oxfordshire. When he finished school, he went into studying at the Henley College before he was 19 years of age. At that point, he went and joined the Thames Valley Police as a special constable. 2 years later, he became a regular constable. Until July of 2019, at the age of 28, when he joined the road policing unit. On the 18th of July, 2019, he married his partner of 13 years, a Leslie, or was it Lizzie? Lizzie. Apologies, everybody. I believe it was Lizzie. Yes. But Lizzie Beckett. And they planned a honeymoon in the mid-August of that year. It all does sound like happy families, doesn't it? This guy who obviously aspired to be a police officer from a young age and spent his life with his childhood sweetheart. Sounds perfect. It's really sad, isn't it, with what's happened to him, and we will move on to that shortly. But Ben, what do you feel? What do you think so far?
Well, I mean, certainly it is a very dreadful story, Graham, isn't it? And thank you very much for bringing that out to us very, very clearly and elegantly. And thank you, certainly the viewers, of course, will have, I'm sure, a few things to say about that. But no, it is a sad situation. I mean, somebody who has aspired to be something important in life, someone who wants to aspire to be somebody who can go into the world with something what you could consider as a career, and a very good one at that. To have his life ended so drastically shortly over a horrific crime, you can't ask you can only say to yourself, can't you, Graham, about just how serious it is, that these people can, lose their lives in such a way, in such a dangerous manner. It's awful. It is absolutely devastating news, and I think it's a story that actually many of us need to remember. When it comes to people of profession, like the police or ambulance service, or even the military, we've got to remind ourselves that these people are actually very important to us, and that we need to respect them, and they are there to protect us. That's the most important thing, and look after us. And we shouldn't certainly put them under any unnecessary strain or pressure. That is certainly the point, Graham, isn't it?
It certainly is. The whole situation is unnecessary. Basically, I shall continue now with the story. Please reflect on this. On the 15th of August 2019, both PC Harper and PC Andrew Shaw responded to a 999 call. Mm-hmm. The time was 23:17 hours. It was late that evening. They came across a Seat towing a stolen quad bike. PC Harper alighted the police vehicle and ran over to the suspect's vehicle, detaining detaining. He tried to detain them, but they were not responding to his instructions. The vehicle was also containing the quad bike as well. In the process, PC Harper got caught up in one of the straps that was dragging on the floor, on the ground. The suspects decided to continue to drive off. With this, PC Harper going along with the vehicle as his foot had got caught in the strap. He became disentangled from his people, okay? And at that point, the other police officer had arrived in the police car and found PC Harper laying to the roadside. At 23:45, less than half an hour later, the paramedics did pronounce PC Harper dead at the scene.
Not good.
Investigations showed that Andrew Harper was dragged for at least 1 mile in approximately 91 seconds. So this did suggest a speed of around about 42 miles an hour, nearly 43 miles an hour. Now that you've heard this, my first question is, what penalty or sentence should the culprits of this crime pay? What do you feel, Ben?
Well, I mean, quite honestly, you would only expect, I think, from any point of view, wouldn't you, from somebody from the working class background, or regardless of your background, I think anybody would want to see justice served in that situation. I think certainly PC Harper went through such an ordeal under the most devastating scenario, I think you could say. I think it's fair to say that this man, or the men involved, young lads, I believe, should be convicted. I would think it's fair to say by life. I think most people would call by that. I think, in my opinion. However, yes, I think when you look at the United Kingdom law, it's a very entangled system of, innocent till proven guilty, Grem, isn't it? So, things aren't quite
Yes.
so straightforward, Grem. And I think to myself, when it comes to things like this, I think you have to sort of, although it might seem obvious to many, you have to sort of look into the evidence, look into the detail, look into the DNA, look into all of the available resources of which the authorities have to depict and to identify the criminal or criminals involved, to actually give them a proper sentencing. Whereas, there are situations where maybe some countries don't quite have that stringent approach. There are some countries I understand in the world that actually will catch you and believe that that's enough evidence for them, and they will convict you based on what they've seen. And I think in this country, in the United Kingdom, it's slightly different. So, I do believe there needs to be some strong, some strong involvement to the authorities to certainly put these people away, who involved, quite strongly enough. But again, I just think they're going to have to investigate it, aren't they? It's just the way our system works. I mean, do you agree, Graham? I mean, I just think there should be some heavy punishments here.
There definitely does need to be a heavy punishment on this. With what happened, it was sad and basically unnecessary. These culprits do need to pay for their crimes, and hopefully they will receive the required justice. As Ben has stated, all facts need to be pulled into the equation, and everything needs to be looked at. The whole story, from the moment the 999 call,
Every little thing.
up to the moment they were found the following day, which was obviously August the 16th. Literally just over an hour later, at 10 to 1 in the morning, from the incident happening. The police haven't found the stolen vehicle, and at four houses corner Travellers. So the site, at this site, they arrested 10 males.
Right.
Basically, on the 18th. Correction. Sorry, I've skipped a point. I apologise, everybody. Basically, on the 18th of August, having collected their evidence, an 18-year-old Henry Long, the 17-year-old Albert Bowers, and Jesse Cole were charged with murder. Now, exactly, Ben. Now, at the time, both these individuals were 17 years old. Were protected by the Children and Young Persons Act of 1933. They all denied murder and manslaughter and accused. Now, this is unbelievable, but obviously we know a bit more of the case through the media at the moment. But I mean, this really does get you, really does. They accused the police of striking them, not get this, with their vehicle, which later turned out to be false. So they basically held up the investigation a little bit there. So the police were having to obviously spend time on investigating that. But surely there would have been some damage to the police car anyhow, which would reflect the way it would have hit the car in front if that was the case. But as it's been said, it's turned out to be false. So basically, how do you feel about protecting minors from this kind of criminal activity? What do you think when you discover that they are travellers? It's a bit of a touchy subject, that. how to answer that. Is there any excuses for this behaviour, this action that they decided to take? I mean, in the heat of the moment, I suppose you could say. But so back to the first question. Have you changed your mind now that you know their ages on what penalty or sentence they should now receive?
Well,
you know, the story still continues, because with recent information that's come out from the courts, where they've been handed down quite a minimal sentence, haven't they? The family of PC Harper are fighting against that. So the story is still going on at this time.
but I think, yeah, Graham. I mean, I'm fully with you about the subject. You know, when you talk about the age of the individuals involved with the PC Harper's death. You know, but of course, I do think, well, actually, should that ever be used as an excuse? Because of course, certainly they were old enough to drive, or certainly they were old enough to, I think, understand right from wrong. And I think it's fair to say, regardless, I think their age in consideration to the event, I think, regardless of their age, they should still have been aware of their wrong. I think they're on that. I mean, everybody would know. I think, regardless of your age, I think you know yourself, don't you, Graham? I mean, putting somebody or tying somebody up against a vehicle and driving them down the road is just absolutely obscene. And I think actually should age come into it.
Yes, well, the police officer got caught up in the rope or the whatever they were using, and that's how he got caught up. But they would have been aware. They would have been. One of them would have noticed, surely. It's something I suppose we will never really know the whole truth about.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Well, it just goes to show, doesn't it, Graham, about the disrespect, doesn't it? I mean, people disrespecting the police. I mean, it goes back to the point, they shouldn't be disrespecting the police. They are there to help us and protect us. And I think in any situation when they need to show force, I think that should be respected and necessary if they so choose to do so in a situation where they are forced to do so. And we shouldn't have a problem with that as civilization. I think we should be fine with it on the basis that they are there primarily to protect us. I have to say, it's very wrong that I think the mindset by many, I think it's fair to say, that have this automatic disrespect for those individuals, the police, the individuals of which have chosen that career to do good by people. I mean, of course, in all walks of life, Graham, I mean, I'm one to believe that there are bad people that do good jobs, and yet they might not hold their responsibility respectfully as they should, and yet those individuals should be dealt with case-by-case basis, and of course be monitored and scrutinised accordingly. But I do think as a whole, we all understand, I think it's fair to say, don't we, that the police are there to look after one another, and that's their primarily their job. And we should never expect, ever, to see a situation where any male or female officer ever goes under a situation or be part of a situation where they're thrown down the road by a vehicle. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous, and it's absolutely disgusting, I've got to say. I mean, it's appalling. I mean, it makes your stomach churn to think that we are living in this day and age where that's happening. It's barbaric. It's absolutely barbaric, isn't it?
It's heart churning. It really is. That police officer, being dragged along the ground at quite a high speed for the country lanes, and I just battered and bruised. It's just such a sad situation. It really is. The funeral was held on the 14th of October as well, Ben, and quite a few people did attend. There was over 800 people that lined the streets. Within this included Petty Patel, the local MP, and the local MP alongside Petty Patel, the Home Secretary.
Yeah.
And on the 27th of October, 2019, 5,000 motorcyclists paid their respects taking part in a ride pass on the 28th of January of this year. He received an award by the Police Federation as well. In June of 2020, again this year, Thames Valley Police named their newest horse, a mounted unit, Harper, which is it's quite a nice memory to you know, it's quite a nice name to be able to turn a quite a sad situation, unnecessary situation, into some happiness, to be able to reflect back on in years to come, for his family to reflect back on, and loved ones and friends and even us discussing it now.
But the thing is,
it's got some meaning.
Yeah, it has. And Graham, I just want to also add the point about meaning as well, and some happiness in all of this. Is that, and again, sadness as well, it depends on how you look at it. But you've got PC Harper. He actually got married, didn't he?
I know, Ben, it's just so sad. They were literally married just like a few weeks, and it's really, really sad that they could not spend the rest of their lives together.
Yeah.
Just for the deeds of others is just unacceptable. I mean, you just scratch your head, you know, with exhaustion, thinking why. It's sad for the loved ones. The sentencing that the individuals received weren't very good. It weren't long enough, and that's the reason why the families, the families of family members, of PC Harper are fighting to have this changed, and it looks like at the moment that's going through necessary procedures to be able to implement a new case, a new court case to hear, and lay down some new sentences. Basically, Henry Long was sentenced to 16 years in prison, whilst both Albert Burrows and Jesse Cole received 13 years each. I mean, the question again is, do you agree with the sentence, everyone? It's just so sad. I mean, PC Harper's widow thinks anyone that does kill someone within the emergency services should be jailed for life. I mean, if you feel the same way, you've been asked to basically sign a petition that the wife of PC Harper has basically placed up on the change.org site. You can find the link on our Facebook page, which will be up once we've done the necessary business of editing, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
but Graham,
Ben, yeah, any comments? Sorry.
No. You carry on, Graham. Because I actually just want to mention.
No, I'm fine.
I want to mention a few things that are coming in, Graham. I mean, we've had a few things coming in on the subject, and I want to add. So, one individual says, "What is Harper's Law, Graham?" I mean, let's get a bit clearer on that, can we? I mean, so we understand about Harper's Law. We understand that it is a law. What does it actually entail?
fair trial for the in regards to what happened to PC Harper, to make sure that individuals that do decide to go down that route again in different circumstances, and the individual who loses their life happens to be a police officer or a member of the emergency services, then they should receive the full strength of the law, and ending with a life sentence, as PC Harper's widow has requested should be the case.
Yeah. I mean, actually, another message has come in, Graham, just based on what you've said there, and I think you've put it out there perfectly. A message has come in saying Harper's Law is a life for crime, and it should be... Yes, it's Harper's Law is life for crimes, and it should be against emergency services. Any life, I think, that's taken or committed towards death or otherwise, similarly, should also be considered life, shouldn't it? I think, under Harper's Law, I think that's fair to say, and it should be implemented. And I think it does mean something. It's very important, and it needs, and our authorities need to be protected, because, as I say, we keep saying this, don't we? They are our emergency services, and they should be looked upon as a good thing and not a negative thing. They're only a positive thing. They're there to look after us, regardless. They're there to make peace of the world, if you like. It's a very, very sad situation, Graham, isn't it? Really.
It is. I mean, since then, we now know that the Attorney General, Suella Braverman, has referred to sentences to Court of Appeal under the unduly lenient sentence scheme. This scheme allows victims of crimes and their families, prosecutors, and the public to ask law officers to review sentences that they feel basically are unfair. I mean, this would seem to be a very swift action, quite near enough, if you can say, in such a sensitive subject, quite soon after the event. Hopefully, there will be a swift outcome.
Yeah.
I mean, do you suppose it will be swift? I mean, what do our viewers have to say on this, really?
Well, I think the viewers certainly have an opinion, Graham, because they've actually said it's a joke. I mean, who on earth paid for the judge? I mean, it makes you wonder how on earth things went the way they did.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
Exactly, mate.
Yeah. Just unbelievable. Just unbelievable. Wouldn't you say?
It is. It is.
Well,
I
Graham,
mean, I am speechless half the time, aren't I? And with lots of things, but this really does get you. It's someone's loved one doing a job, and an important job to keep people safe in upholding the law, and it's extremely sad. So, Ben,
well,
I mean, I think silence really sometimes is nice to have a little bit of silence.
Well, I think it needs it. I think it needs it. It's a very, very heart-wrenching story, isn't it? And a little bit of reflection is certainly most necessary. But Graham, before we hit the silence, because otherwise others could sleep, and we don't want some sleep right now, because we are in the swing of things, because we've got more to talk about, Graham, haven't we? In
we
the world
have,
of the Ben&Grem
yes,
Show.
we have.
The Ben&Grem Small Talk. And so what do we got? We have mosquito spray. Now, this is an interesting one, Graham, because the military, and now we understand when it comes to military, Graham, they are, let's say, pretty well equipped with any particular need of supply that they need going through any particular routine, whether it's training or whether it's travelling. They are pretty much ahead of the game, aren't they? But interestingly enough, Graham, and it's been a subject on our lips for many months now, which is, as we know, coronavirus, COVID-19, scientifically known to you and I. And of course, Graham, what we've heard is there has been a considered insect spray that actually has been suggested to be able to kill COVID-19. Now, weirdly enough, the military in particular have used this particular spray, and they've brought it in en masse for the use as provided for, for keeping away insects and bugs and of course, when you're out and about and you're in
Yes.
in the vast array of forest land or wherever you may be in the wilderness, you're going to come across, particularly depending on the climate you're in, some very awkward nature. So of course, with that, they have discovered that it's an interesting one for COVID-19. And so it says the information here is that researchers have said the initial findings suggest that a substance has been found in insect repellent, Graham, may be effective for battling coronavirus. So, months after it was revealed that the British military was experiencing the unusual prophylactic, it's quite an interesting one, Graham, because scientists have actually said that the Defence of Science have said, Technology and Laboratory, DSTL, have said that they believe that the critidiol, it's called, if I can pronounce it correctly, which is the product which is made using an oil and the leaves and twigs of eucalyptus, and it's actually from the eucalyptus tree. So it's an insect repellent which is actually having a huge effect. And in fact, when you think, right, Graham, when you hear of things being used for a certain purpose, you don't ever believe that any particular subject or product can ever be used for more than one effort towards any particular situation. You know what I mean? But to actually think that an insect repellent can be used to combat COVID-19 is quite remarkable, don't you think?
Oh, I do. I think it's amazing. So let's basically hope that they are able to look into it further, the scientists, and come up with something that can be digested, because we are not telling people to go out there and do something with insect repellent, are we? So we're not going down that route.
No.
It needs to be safe.
No, but actually what has been said, Graham, is that we have found that, or at least the military have found, that actually it can be used to keep them healthy. And in the instance of obviously doing their, scheduled routines, that, they can protect themselves, believing or not, from the COVID-19. Now, certainly, some messages coming in, actually, we've seen. And of course, people are asking the question, has it been scientifically tested? I think as it stands, no. It hasn't.
It's probably in the process of going through the stages of being done so. So, it's probably on the way. But it takes time, like everything takes time. And anything to do with government or scientific research, it takes time. It's just not like laid on someone's desk, like, there you go, do this. You've got to go through the necessary procedures.
Yes.
We should see something soon, hopefully. Something positive that they've started.
But isn't it funny, isn't it, Graham, how you can have a situation like a pandemic and you can come across products that people use for a specific reason, but actually then find that it can be used for other things as well. That's quite remarkable. When you've got scientists out there trying to combat the very virus, and yet you come across an insect repellent and it appears to be doing the very thing that they are looking for. And that is to kill COVID-19. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing.
It's amazing because obviously, if it's sprayed around clothing and a specific area, then it's going to kill that virus. If it's in clothing, etc. So, but for it to be effective for a sufferer that is actually going through the transition of having the virus, then it obviously needs to go through the testing process and with scientists to be able to come up with a item that can be used and can be digested.
Yeah, absolutely, Graham. Well, we've got a message come in for you, Graham, because actually they agree with you. The individual in question have said that, well said, Graham. They say that, soon enough we'll be drinking bleach if the next story suggests it works. So, who knows?
Yeah.
That's a very good
point.
Well,
it would have to be a safe kind of yeah, it would have to be safe. Otherwise, just don't go down that route. You don't just go picking up a bottle of that stuff and doing that, do you?
No, that's very true. I mean, but yeah, again, I mean, yes, I think it's obvious to say that by drinking bleach is probably not going to be a very good idea. I mean, it's not something that you have ever been taught to do. I think even as a young age, you've been told, you should never drink bleach. As a child crawling along the floor, you open the cupboard up and you go, wow, there's bleach there. And, that's why they put the safety caps on them, because, of course, naturally, a child will get hold of anything if they can. And so, but again, it is quite severe. But I think if you go back to that point, I mean, whether you agree with Mr. Donald or the President Donald Trump or not, I think the point being is that disinfectant kills bacteria, kills germs.
Yeah, I was hoping that Donald Trump's name wasn't going to come up in this, because that brings us into a rather lengthy discussion, doesn't it?
It certainly does, but I think he's on something. Grem, just take this for an example. If bacteria is killed by bleach, then could you not use that? I mean, I don't know. I'm no scientist either, Grem, of course, but I think this is where I think Donald Trump was coming from. But actually, could that not be then used with another substance that could make it plausible to then be used for ingestion? I mean, you can only put that question to a scientist, and I think that's where Donald Trump was coming from, because actually it's a scientist that
basically basically, if you'd like to use the term ingredients, okay, they would have to be safe. Each one of them would have to be made safe to be able to be digested. If scientists can do that with the bleach, for example, then in the insect repellent, then if they can do that and make it safe to be digested by a human, then it's thumbs up, isn't it? It needs to be safe.
It does, but messages are flooding in, Grem, and actually people are saying, but bleach kills people. So I think it's fair to say we're not going to be drinking bleach.
Of course it does. Of course. It's not a very wise thing to do, is it?
So we're not going to be doing it anytime soon, are we, Graham? I think it's fair to say.
It's not a wise. It's not a very. I'm going to change that. What I've said, actually, it's a very stupid thing to do.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Trump, I like your enthusiasm on that one. Let's not do that. More research is required. Maybe not bleach.
Yeah.
I think leave bleach out of it.
Definitely.
But Graham, you know, one day soon enough we will find a cure. I like all things. Something will come ahead, and we can live COVID-free. Not three as in COVID-3, but free of COVID, I should have said. I mean, because actually that's important, isn't it? To think that we actually are now under a situation where we are to expect COVID-19 to be a thing of the future and be around forever, like the common flu. We can only, I think, go forward with a way of mind of combating as and when it strikes. So having that cure to be able to maintain and blanket the problem a little bit, you could say. Like the flu jab.
Yes.
Maybe we need something like the flu jab.
Well,
Until
eventually,
I'm hearing.
it will come about. I mean, in a lot of cases, Ben and the viewers, it's in up to 45 years to find a cure for something. But let's hope that with what's going on at the moment, I mean, the world is taking this extremely serious, and so there's a high possibility that, and probability, that we should hopefully see an outcome. Let's say as soon as possible. Be nice tomorrow, but unlikely. But it would be great to have a cure as soon as possible for this.
Well, I mean, for what we understand to know, at least it could be considered a conspiracy, Graham. But when we talk of cures, we talk of the big C, and everybody knows the big C is known as cancer. It's a killer, and we know that sadly it can strike anytime, any place, anywhere. and it does not discriminate. We've seen the adverts on the news. And of course, with that, Grem, you ask yourself, well, actually, why have we not found a cure with that already? And depending on who you speak to, you hear people say, but actually, no, there won't ever be a cure because there's too much money involved. And then you ask yourself, if actually that's a huge conspiracy within itself.
Yeah, a lot of people do use that saying, or they do say that, but there's many different forms of cancer. There's
Graham.
many different. Yeah, but
I'm glad you said that.
So that's probably the reason why that it's extremely difficult to handle. And one thing with the coronavirus is, it is, if you'd like to say, from the family of the flu.
Yes.
It's a cold virus. So scientists have already got an awful lot of knowledge there to be able to move forward with. So they saved a lot of time.
Oh yeah.
To be able to move ahead there. So it's sped it up. So hopefully we should hear some positive news.
I think you're absolutely
at
right.
some point.
Yeah, I agree. I think I follow you on that, definitely. I mean, let's hope and see whether that comes to light. But Grem, just as we are getting into this topic, and yet more juicier and juicier that it becomes, we are most definitely moving on to pointless news, Grem, because it's that time already.
Oh, wow. Pointless news, everybody.
And with that, Grem, I think we need to hit the noise, don't we? The noise for you guys. The pointless
go
news.
Go on.
Pointless news.
Always love it. Never gets bored of that. Hey, Grem, I can't ever get bored of that.
Exactly. I think I want that as a text message tone. So when you actually text me, in fact, everybody, when Ben does actually text me, which is not very often.
Well, we don't like each
but
other.
if he does, it would be nice to have that as a tone.
We don't like each other.
No, mate. We do like each other. We do like each other.
But Grem, just before
We're
we
just
move
two
on,
individuals, so
True.
Yeah.
But Grem, just before we move on, can I just do the pointless news just one more time, because I love it so much. I love it too much. Is that all right?
just put it on repeat.
Pointless news.
Right. Okay. Let's finish the pointless news now, and let's move on to pointless news, because actually, it's pointless just doing pointless news if there's no news to go with it, right? That
I
really
would say that is
pointless,
rather
Grem.
pointless. Well, more than pointless.
Well, horrendously
just-
pointless. Without further ado,
Exactly, pointless.
Graham, pointless news. Are you ready for this, viewers? Because actually, this really is pointless news. General election 2019. Matt Lucas, right, ladies and gentlemen, predicts Jeremy Corbyn will sign up for Strictly.
Pointless news.
What do you reckon on that, Graham? I mean, Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, he's probably a good dancer. Does anyone know if he is? If he can dance?
Well, maybe. I mean, everybody's got to be good at something, haven't they, Graham? Not to say he wasn't good at politics. That's down to the individual to decide. But actually, could he dance? We will see. Maybe there is some truth in this story, Graham. It has come from the Daily Mirror, by the way, I like to add. It has become a story. It's not just me waffling, Graham, because you know I can do very much that. But it actually is a story. And so we might actually end up seeing on our television screens Jeremy Corbyn on Strictly Come Dancing, everybody. Now, what about that? Would you like to see that?
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, I think I'd put the politics to one side, and yeah, why not?
But more
Give him a
importantly,
chance. Let's see what he can do.
Graham, we just had a message in, and actually, more importantly, I've got to add this point. And an individual has said to us that, mention no names, has said it's got to be better than Theresa May. What about that?
Oh my God!
But you know, I don't care.
Oh my gosh!
Graham, I don't care, do you? Just how bad someone does something. as long as they have the ability to do it. You know, at the end of the day, we can't all be good at everything. At the end of the day,
Yes.
if you've got the brass, you know, to go in and dance in the most awkward situation, then so be it. I mean, life needs to be grabbed with both hands, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Why should we?
Exactly. I mean, sorry, Ben, with Theresa May, I mean, she was a bit stiff, wasn't she? A bit stiff, a lot stiff, I would say. She just needed oiling up, I suppose, eh? What do you
Oiling
reckon,
up,
Ben?
Graham.
Yeah, yeah.
Oiling up.
Well, to move about a bit more, you know, with ease, because it was like she was like like a piece of wood. She was wooden. She was just wooden.
Well,
I can't. How can you do? It's like
look,
this, wasn't it?
put it this way, Graham.
Rather strange.
If I'm honest with you, Graham, if I could move like Theresa May could at that age, I'd have a big smile on my face, Graham. You know what I mean?
I'm sure you'll manage, mate. That's if you don't spend as much time in asleep as than you actually do. Anyway, so
Yes, and
yeah,
individuals.
you might be able to.
We've had a
on.
message come in, Graham. As Wooden has her politics. There you go. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Well, that does bring us on quite swiftly, Graham, to the very next topic of Pointless News. And it would be wrong for me not to do the Pointless News transition. So I think it's right for me to do it right now.
Pointless news.
Okay, that's it. Pointless News topic number 2. And Graham, now, this is a little bit concerning because let's be honest, right? It doesn't matter how old you are, okay? You know, they say that women grow and be more mature at a younger age than the fellow man. I get it, right? And I think there is some truth in that. But again, it depends on how you see it. And again, that's down to the individual to decide. But let's just say this, right, Graham? You know, we have now Katie Price. All right. Now, Katie Price is a very well-known celebrity. She has done huge amounts of things for society. And of course, she is very well known, very prosperous. And has been, as we know, a model. She's been in the news for many reasons recently. And very weirdly enough, she's been in the news about something you would not, I think it's fair to say, have expected. Now, Katie Price has had a bit of a situation upon herself. Katie Price has shown off a mangled, broken foot as surgeons have repaired an injury that is actually worse than been feared originally. Now, she had an accident. She was on holiday and she's fallen from a height. Well, let's just say she's jumped from a height. And she underestimated, you could say, the height itself and landed on her feet and, of course, mangled her foot. Now, when she's gone under surgery, it's been told that actually they've not been able to fix it completely simply because, and their words, because it was too mangled. Now, it doesn't matter how old you are, Graham. You can be an adult. You can be a child. The fact in the matter is we do silly things. I mean, what a crazy story. I mean, is it pointless news, Graham? What do you think?
Well, they must be able to do something to make it more better than what they've said that is all that they can do. I can't believe that they can't do nothing else. Is it because I'm not a medical professional, so yeah, I really don't know how to answer that one. Yeah, I suppose in a way it is pretty pointless because the story goes nowhere. There's no not happier ending. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
there's no direction to the story. It's
it's a statement, isn't it, more than anything, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I agree.
One viewer said,
It
"Chop it
is
off."
pointless news.
Chop it off.
Chop it off. I mean, the thing is, I mean, where was she, and what was she jumping from?
Well, good question. Well, that's a very good question, Graham, and I think that does need to be researched a little bit further, and we are just about to do that, because actually, no story is a story without substance, is it, Graham? And so let's dive into this a little bit more, shall we? Because look, we know she's very up for a challenge. We know that Katie Price, she's been known to get involved with not just modelling but also makeup, I believe, as well. She has been involved with makeup. She's not somebody who shies away from an opportunity, and that's a good thing for, I think, anybody. But she's been on holiday, and basically the surgeons, as I say, Graham, found that actually they could have worked on it, but because actually I believe she'd already had an accident with the foot. She already damaged the foot originally, and of course jumping from a height made it worse, and in their minds mangled. So they've tried to repair the foot, but I think it's going to be a little bit more than just a few stitches, let's say. She explained it's because she injured herself 3 weeks prior to the surgery, and it had made the surgeon's jobs harder. So simply, as I say, because she had the accident with her foot prior to the actual surgery she had. The registrar, one of one of the other saw earlier that it came in and it broke to the news, had said that unfortunately when they got inside, they wanted to do keyhole surgery, but it was more smashed up, the foot, and mangled, and the X-ray decided, at least from the surgeon's point of view, that it was going to take several weeks to heal, and at least 3 weeks, basically minimum, was going to be the required time for it to heal. But Katie had been told that because she was unable to walk on it, 3 weeks to 6 months, or 3 to 6 months, after the injury, was probably necessary for a full recovery. So I think the point in the moral of the story here is, although considered pointless news, Graham, is that she had the accident at the time where she jumped from the height. She had already damaged her foot previously. And so the doctors already had a situation on their hands prior to her even going in for surgery. So keyhole or not, the surgery was made difficult from the outset. And so 6 months is a long time. She's lucky she didn't lose her leg or her foot, isn't she, really?
Well, yes, it's quite a concern, really. So in a way, it's not pointless news.
Well,
in a way,
in a way it's not. But I think actually, to many it's probably pointless. But I think to those that support Katie Price, and of course there are supporters of her, of course she's a very well-renowned celebrity, you could say, for the things she does, they are going to see that as a very important piece of news. But to some it would be considered pointless. I mean, actually, you could say it's pointless because what's the moral of the story here? Well, Graham, I think the moral story in this is that, well, actually her foot's fine. Yes, it's going to take 6 months to heal, 3 to 6 months to heal. But in reality, yes, she damaged it previously before surgery, but actually she's not lost her foot. And in any case, she's going to be able to walk away, you could say within 12 months, with a perfectly illegible foot. Illegible.
Yes, I totally agree, mate. Yes.
Yeah. But, But my point, Graham, is that, it doesn't matter how old you are, does it? Because you can be the age of Katie Price, a very mature lady, and yet you can still do silly things, can't you?
Yes, and Katie's done many silly things. Yes.
Well, Graham, I've got to say, that's been a pleasure. Katie Price, I hope you get well soon. More importantly, I hope your family can deal with you being absent on your feet for a little while, and understandably so, you're going to need that rest time. But we do move swiftly on, Graham, to our next topic, which is food safety. And what have you got for us?
Yes, well, it's quite an unusual story, extraordinary story, really. It would seem that whilst factories went into lockdown back at the end of March, placing millions of employees on furlough, returning to the production line has come with a range of problems. Don't you think, Ben?
I do. Many problems. Well, the thing is, it's like in all things, safety with food is a very important thing. isn't it? We go through our lives expecting those individuals that create the food and to put the food on our table to be doing a very much of a high standard effort, because after all, we ingest that stuff. We pay good money to keep ourselves healthy, and you've got to say it's a very important matter, isn't it? Food safety, a lot can be ingested and diseases can be spread, and we know that with COVID-19. I mean, look at the bats. We heard in China, didn't we, that you've got people eating certain animals, and that has been said to be a factor in creating disease and spreading disease. And so the wet farms in China had an implication upon COVID-19. And yet,
Yes.
Food safety is a very big topic. Now, I remember years ago, Grem, I mean, growing up, I remember stories of people finding glass in food. I mean, because actually on the production line, it happened to have sneaked in, or, not just food, but it could be plastics of some form, because, accidents do happen, human error. But of course,
Yes, I mean, I do agree with you. I mean, it could be that workers basically are out of practice, aren't they? Perhaps leaving the machines idle for such a long time has caused problems within the that area as well, to do with hygiene. I mean, this week alone, supermarkets are urging customers to return a series of items after the FDA, Food Standards Agency, raised alerts. So that's quite concerning, isn't it? That some foods were found to contain an ugly bug, not nice, and with everything that's going on at the moment with the coronavirus, do we really need anything else added to the list of things? If you think about it, it's not nice, is it, to go through food poisoning?
Yeah. No, it's not
at
nice.
a time when you've got coronavirus at your doorstep, if you'd like to say, and you may have to go to the doctors or the A&E hospital, and where your immune system is pretty low because of what you're going through, you are at a slightly higher risk in contracting the virus.
Well, that's it, Grem, and that's it. And of course, going through life, if you are somebody who doesn't maybe eat as well as you should, of course, your immune system naturally is not going to have a fighting chance. You need to eat healthily. You need to eat all the right foods. You're 5 a day if you can. Yes, it's difficult. We all have busy lives, and we go through our lives, going to work, going to pick people up, whether it's, you're looking after children or going to school, whatever we tend to do, and we're all busy in some instance or another. You don't have the opportunity sometimes, although you should, to eat your 5 a days and your regular meals and your breakfasts and your lunch and your dinners. And this is the truth of it. If we keep our metabolism strong, through the efforts of eating well, then actually we can fight COVID-19. We can fight.
I agree with you, Ben, and I'm sure the viewers do as well. I mean, for example, personally with myself, I mean, and you today, with regards to the production of tonight's show, we've had quite a hell of a day at it, really. Not everything's gone right, but it seems to be going rather smoothly now.
But that's exactly what life's all about.
Yeah, well, I know, mate, but it's just me having a little stress here and there.
But you don't need to do that, because we've just had a message come in, and I've just found out from an individual who said, what was in the food? What was in the food? So we're talking about health and safety, weren't we? And we were talking about, the issue around danger and what is perceived to be a worry when it comes to the manufacturing line. And of course, as I said earlier, we had situations where it's been known in the past where people have found things like glass and plastic packaging in the food. And yeah, although human error is a possibility, Graham, but going back to food safety, I mean, is there anything you want to pick up on which comes about food and the safety of food? And is there any particular side of the story that you want to add?
I don't believe so, no, mate.
That's fair enough. So the point being is, yeah.
Not at all. I mean, with regards to myself, trying to keep to the 5 a day is pretty difficult when I've got quite a hectic life, personally and professionally. In fact, I have a night shift to do later on this evening, which I'm not totally looking forward to, but it's got to be done.
But every day is different. Right? Always take the positives
Exactly,
and
mate.
negatives. You are in charge. Regardless, you make your life what it is. Only you can control that, regardless of what everybody
Yes,
else
but
is
you
doing.
can only have so much control of one's life, and
True.
there's always someone that will accidentally place something within the way which can slow that process down of a smooth transition into the rest of the day. It's just the way it is. It's like driving a car. You think you've got enough time to get to your destination.
Yeah.
You've left 20 minutes earlier than you need to, and you end up being stuck behind a tractor or something. But
Yeah.
that's just, life.
It is. Life can't be clear all the time. But Graham,
No, it'd be boring, wouldn't it?
It would.
Wouldn't it be boring if life just went smoothly? It sounds nice, but smoothly.
Yeah, no, I think life in some cases would be boring if it went smoothly because it wouldn't be a challenge, would it? But Graham, talking about smooth and challenges, there is a challenge that I'm particularly uncertainly happy with. Uncertainly? There is a challenge that I'm not particularly happy with. Yes, I will go with that. And that is that the military, now get this guys, moving on to another topic here, no armour, no cry. The UK government has reportedly said that they are going to look at debates upon scrapping tanks, that's military tanks to you and I, in favour of high-tech weaponry. Now, that's a little bit worrying because, of course, we understand over the years we've had the World War I, World War II, and we've had all the other, and I like not to quote them all, of course, but of course we talk of those that are considered to be I think you could say, Graham, couldn't you, the main topic of war. Tanks have always been used in military interventions throughout history.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, there is a radical plan, Graham, that has been debated within the government, which has said to be that where British Army wants to boost the air and cyber warfare with capabilities to be mothballing its armoured fleet, which is worrying because, of course, that is another level of military attacking, isn't it? And serious level of war, isn't it? According to the newspaper report, now there is a information that has been come about, or should we say has been noted, and I take my news certainly from Russia Today, RT, for those of you that are not aware of the news channel. They've said that it's a pretty drastic event, but yet actually very much in the swing of likelihood, possibility of change. So, Graham, I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, that's quite a scary prospect, isn't it? To think that we're going to get rid of what we know that we've already had and that we're used to then start moving ourselves forward towards cyber threats and military airborne attacks. That's quite frightening, wouldn't you say?
No, well, yes, it is. It is rather concerning. I think the necessary use of tanks will always be there. But cyber security is extremely important, and so much damage and injury can be caused by someone gaining access to a very sensitive area. So yes, I think it's needed, but don't become complacent. The army needs to be ready to engage if necessary with the tried and tested, what they've used before. Just it needs to be ready to go.
Yeah, it does. It does. But it does worry me, Graham, that, we are where we are. And in 2020, we are seeing discussions being had and debates being raised about how we go forward with our military involvements. And I think it's quite scary when you think that, we know nuclear is a serious threat, but cyber attacks, again, is sometimes a silent threat, which, of course, can be very devastating. So, yeah, it's quite concerning.
Well, as they say, if things are left unchecked, terrible things can happen. If you leave something unchecked, then there's a high likelihood that something negative is going to come from it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got some comments coming in, Graham, and it actually does. We'll come back to the bomb squad. It's bomb squad. We'll come back to the issues around the intervention on changing our military
Yes.
scenarios of use. But the reason why I say this is because we had some comments coming in, and we're talking again about, as we spoke about food poisoning, didn't we? And food poisoning is a pretty serious thing. And we've had a message or messages coming in. And interestingly enough, we don't know enough about bacteria. And what we do know of bacteria is it can be severe. And certainly bacteria can be or can cause botulism. Now, botulism is botulism, I should say, is the best pronunciation, is an extremely severe form of food poisoning, which can be created from the form of bacteria, which we have to be absolutely aware of, and it can kill people.
Yes,
Iceland,
can do.
it's been told Iceland, Graham. We've had some comments coming in further. Iceland have been found that salmonella has been found within their chip shop curry, which is the chicken breasts and toppers, or chicken breast toppers, and also their southern fried chicken popsters have all been recalled through bad hygiene. So the spread in feces, which is human waste, you could ask yourself.
Nice.
Is quite a nasty little thing. And of course, you think that, that's going to cause you some issues, isn't it? Not good.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that intervention from the viewers. It's a serious factor. Salmonella. Like I say, botulism. There's so much that can be created from bacteria, which not only can be seen as good, because of course we know that antibiotics, bacteria can be used within antibiotics, and that can be very helpful. But then on the same process, you can actually have some severe side effects from bacteria, which can cause food poisoning and death. So yeah, we've got to be aware of these things. We've got to be very serious. We've got to take these things seriously, and we've got to protect ourselves when it comes to food production, because anything can get in our food. And we're not just the only people looking for food, human beings. You've got rodents, of course, always scratching around for food. And of course, as much as you can keep these places clean, you're always going to have infestations where lapse hygiene is in effect, So, I think we need to put that point out there, don't we, Graham?
Yes, I agree. It needs to be said.
Yeah, another message is coming, Graham. It says we've been told that the co-op have also recalled curly cow, which is like a lettuce, isn't it? And it's been taken off the shelves because it may contain thistle. Now, thistle's quite a serious thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that is serious. Well, thank you very much for that again.
Yes.
Thistle, not safe. That would hurt, wouldn't it? Ingesting that wouldn't do you any good. Definitely not. Definitely not.
No, well, I don't like the thought of that.
No. I think we will move swiftly on, and that does bring me on to bomb squad. You heard me say that earlier, because actually we've heard, sadly, something that's happened in Norfolk. Bomb squad have been called in as an unexpected device has been found in Norfolk, actually Norfolk Beach car park. It was later discovered by the police when they were called to the device, that actually it was an explosive that they had found, but the explosive had believed to be from a past war, and I'm just looking for some information on this for you. We are understood to know that it has been destroyed. The explosive was an unexploded mortar shell. So I was right in what I said, Graham. So it was a shell or explosive or bomb, you could ask yourself, that was from or used particularly in a previous war, maybe World War II, that had gone unexploded. And that happens a lot. You hear stories, don't you, Graham, where you find people go and take dogs for walks up the hills or wherever it might be, and of course they come across an object, and it happens to be a grenade or it happens to be an unexploded device.
Yes.
And it gets taken away, and it gets taken into the authorities, and of course they dispose of it respectfully and responsibly. But it happens. I mean, if you think, Graham, you go back to the war, you think like World War II, just how many things have come from the sky, dropped, and not used.
No, exactly. I mean, literally outside the port, maybe a mile or so outside the port, there's how many bombs must be, they're obviously covered over by now, but there's loads. There's got to be loads. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Dover was bombarded, wasn't it, Ben? That's the reason why we don't have many historic buildings in Dover, because we got blown to pieces, didn't we?
We did, and it wasn't a very pleasant time. But you know something, Graham? It was understood to be known that actually in the war, the Belgiques actually were quite friendly towards us, because from what I understand, and going back to some history, is that when parts of the southeast were flattened by explosives within the war, that actually the Belgiques subsidised us with pop-up housing. I didn't know this, but apparently that was what was understood to be the case. And so, it goes to show, doesn't it, that actually when in time of need, people come together. And we should learn a lot by that. And it doesn't matter how severe or how non-severe a situation is, that actually when time in need is a time in need, we all do the best to help one another. And that's an important point. But Graham, I do think this is important, because we do need to move on. And I do need to say to you that we have an interesting one here for the viewers, but it's something a little bit different, and it's to do with dinosaurs, Graham. I mean, what can you tell us about that?
Well, everyone has got to love a dinosaur story. Most people, maybe. I do. I don't know about you, Ben, but did you ever watch like Jurassic Park, maybe, mate?
I did, Graham. I did. Jurassic Park was one of my favourites when I was a child. I thought that Jurassic Park was certainly one that I would continue to watch. But like all things, Graham, I do get disappointed when you see Jurassic Park, for example, and yet you see remakes. I always think... You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It spoils
sometimes sometimes the remakes just... Why have they bothered? They just kill the whole concept of the original show. They just spoil it.
Yeah.
Talk about Jaws, really, but we're not going to talk about the Jaws sequels, because the final one was just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Sorry about that, but it was. Anyway, back to the topic in question. In recent news, it has been reported that after finding a fossil in southwestern China, back in 2010, this was, guys, so a little while ago, not too far in the distance. They then discovered, though, that within this creature's stomach, they actually found another creature. And the creature was 5 meters long, and the other creature within the stomach was around about 4 meters long, which is rather strange, isn't it? The creature was found in 2010 was called Ichthyosaur, if I'm saying that correctly. Hopefully I am. But it was from the mid-Jurassic period. That is basically about 230 million years ago. So quite some time, well, a long time way before the large land giants that we all know of from the Jurassic period.
Yeah.
That's a nice bit of sound there. Yeah, fell in quite well. Well done for that, Ben. So, the large land giants from the Jurassic period, which was around about 150 million years ago. We're talking basically about a time when there were only giants that basically existed in the sea and not on the land.
Wow.
I mean, Ben, what is your favourite, if you want to say, dinosaur from the Jurassic period?
I would have to say that actually a velociraptor was always my favourite dinosaur.
Now, explain why.
What, the method to that madness? Well, it's not madness,
Yeah.
is it?
Well,
But
no, you're not mad. I'm the one that's mad.
no,
Everyone
I think
knows that.
Grem, I think the velociraptor was quite an aggressive animal. It was quite dominant, I think you could say. I mean, you could say the same about the T-Rex, couldn't you? I mean, what's the actual name for the T-Rex? But we'll come to that in a moment. But yeah, you got the velociraptor, and it was agile. I liked that. It was aggressive. It was food searching, and it was fast, and it kind of had everything but wings. And I kind of thought that if I was able to become...
yes, and they like to fight in sort of secretive packs, didn't they? They would sort of be, there would be, you think there'd be one, but
Yes.
there'd be others quite shortly thereafterwards. So yeah, I mean, has anyone else got anything to say in the chat, maybe, Ben, about it?
What about triceratopses? Because somebody's come in and said triceratops. We've had an individual come in and said that they are best fighters. Hang on, start again. That wasn't what they said at all. They said triceratops because they made the best fights in the old films against T-Rex. Yes, they did, actually. You're right there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that message. Yes, they did. The noise most definitely was not Carlsberg. Let's just say,
No,
Grem, let's just say that sometimes accidentally as it is, it's not
Oh
done.
no, I don't think it was accidentally, Ben. It fitted quite well in with exactly what I said at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a sound, you know. It's a sound that basically has emphasised what I was going on about. So.
Well, I upset the cat. Let's just say we'll leave it there.
Ah, the poor cat.
No, the cat's
Poor
fine.
cat.
No harm was done in the making of this video, Grem.
No, I'm really pleased, and I am sure that everyone else is extremely pleased with that as well, my friend.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're moving on swiftly from the cat.
Yeah, so getting back to that story, basically.
What on earth is a Putin, Grem? And I don't mean the president of Russia either. A Putin.
No.
I mean,
No.
we've had a message coming in, and we've been told about the Putin, and that's P-O-O-T-I-N-G. Please, if you wouldn't mind just elaborating further with that, because me and Grem, is that fair to say, Grem, and I, and Ben, are a little bit confused. Are you, Grem?
Yeah, we are a little bit. So we'll come back to that briefly. Yeah. So please do. Yeah, explain. Maybe it's something like prehistoric penguin or something.
Right. No, Putin to the viewers, and it's been concluded quite clearly to the noise in the ear by the producer. And I will say this in the most politically correct and most comfortable way putting form possible. I think I can try that, Grem.
Okay.
Putin is to break wind. I think I said that politically correctly. Putin
Oh,
is...
God, crying out loud. So we're still going on about the sound then, the sound of the
We
opening
are,
of
Graham.
the...
We are, because it was topic of discussion, wasn't it? And so it's breaking wind quietly. Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Message is coming in.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you. Yes, I'll
no
have to
wind
use
was
that at
expressed
some
in the
point.
making of this video, Graham, was it?
No. But I can't smell anything. And, well, thankfully, luckily that, it wasn't exact because...
Not
well,
really quite sure where we were going with this, Graham, but I think we
no,
need
no,
to
no,
pull
I'm not
swiftly
going to
back.
bring it up. I'm not going to bring that up, no.
Before we fall asleep,
Because
guys,
it's
we have got
smelling.
another topic, because without talking about wind, we do have a serious subject, which has been ongoing, Graham, hasn't it, for many months, and it is to do with Scotland. I mean, Graham, how many times are we going to have this
Oh, yes,
conversation
yes.
about independence of Scotland? United Kingdom would not be United Kingdom without Scotland. Scotland are made to be with the UK. We are part of Great Britain. Let's leave it like that and let's move on. But of course, it's not for me to say, Graham, is it? It's for you to say, and it's for others to have an opinion on, because we would not be Great Britain without you, Scotland, would we, Graham?
No, and we wouldn't want to see, the United Kingdom broke up. It would be very, very sad to have to see that, and hopefully it will never happen.
Well,
I
Boris
don't
Johnson
believe
said...
it will.
Sorry, Graham.
No, yes, please carry on. I mean, but Boris Johnson has basically, doesn't he, that it would be sad. England needs, England and Wales, and they need.
Well, he
Scotland.
says, Boris Johnson said it's the greatest
One
political
big
partnership in the
family.
world, Graham.
Exactly. I mean, it was the reason why it happened was through the joining of the Scottish and the English crown, when Queen Elizabeth I passed and had basically had no children to carry on the line. So that's the reason why it went to the nearest member, which happened to be the Scottish crown. So we've been one ever since.
But the thing is, Graham, I mean, we talk of this and we talk of going back to the early days, centuries before, years and years before, where we talk about, Scottish independence, and, it's never been a subject that's gone away quickly or quite lightly. It's always been there. It's always been rustling in the feathers of the past. And of course now, when we're leaving the European Union, in January, I add, of course we've already left as far as many are concerned, but in January is
Yes.
official. And of course with that, it has caused tensions between us, England and Scotland. And of course Scotland, as it's been said by the likes of, you could say, Nicola Sturgeon, she's of the view that, of course, people want to have their view in Scotland to have the independent referendum again, because I say again because they've already had one, of course, we know. And of course she says that actually they should be independent as an independent nation. There's nothing to suggest that the Scottish couldn't be independent. I mean, of course, if that's what the people of Scotland wanted, then so be it. And that's fine for them to be in that position to do so. But yet, I think it's fair to say that we work well as a united nation of United Kingdom. And of course, we do supply financial means to Scotland through the Barnett formula. And so,
Yes.
if there are any areas I think we need to discuss, then so be it. I think as two countries I think they need to come together and have those negotiations. But I think if it's down to Brexit and the reason for why maybe they feel it's necessary for them to want to split, I think it's a little bit premature. Because one thing I've never understood, Graham, and I just want to divert further if I can, and please interrupt me if you
Okay.
feel I am going further with this, but actually what I've never understood about Scottish independence is that whilst being independent in their minds of the United Kingdom, Great Britain, UK and Northern Ireland, in the same token they want to be members of the European Union. And for me, it's a bit hypocritical, because you can't be independent but be members of the European Union, and in the same token be independent and be away from us. So if they are to be serious about being independent and Scottish and be an independent nation, outward-looking nation, then they need to leave the European Union. In which case we know they've already done so under the United Kingdom, because we are a nation of 4 made-up countries. Correct me if
Yes.
I'm wrong. So I haven't missed anything there. So for that reason alone, Grem, if they want to be members of the European Union, they would without doubt would have to leave the United Kingdom. But then they wouldn't be sovereign after all. They wouldn't be independent. So I think they need to really seriously consider what they mean by the word independence, don't you think?
No, exactly. But like with any side of politics, it's the way the term is interpreted to their ideology, their belief. So they will interpretate it to fit what they believe in.
Yeah, I think I couldn't have said that any better, Graham. I think you're right. There will be mixed opinions on the matter, and but I do think that it's certainly through history a very good thing that we remain as one nation, as United Kingdom, as
Most definitely,
Northern
most
Ireland,
definitely.
Scotland, England, and Wales. I think that works, and I think we have a good relationship there. I mean, but there are always going to be issues, of course, and I think with that they should be discussed. And Nicola Sturgeon, I hope she will come to some sense or senses, and although while having the opinion to want independence, reflect on the previous referendum, which actually decided that no, they don't want Scottish independence. They want to remain part of the United Kingdom. And I think you can ask many people on that. I think they want to remain part of the United Kingdom. But of course, democracy speaks, and of course,
Yes.
everybody can have their own opinion to that, and it's right that they do.
What I'm thinking about actually is
Yeah.
the reason why they're trying to rush this through for a second time is because there's always a possibility in something positive happening. So just think about Brexit, for example. There is a possibility that it's going to be a great success for the whole of the United Kingdom, and that possibility is there. Yes, it's going to be bumpy road. You know, there's going to be some sharp turns here and there, and it's going to be quite frightening at times for many individuals. But to get to the goal, sometimes you've got to go through some hardships. It's difficult to say the word hardships, but you know, sometimes you've got to go through that to move on to more positive outcomes. So I'm wondering basically if that's the reason why that they're pushing so hard for a second referendum, is because in, let's say, for example, in 5 years, 8 years time, when everything has gone totally opposite to what those that fought on the Remain side, and we get the positive side from with regards to you know, voting and campaigning for Brexit, and we get that positivity there. It just makes you think, doesn't it? That's the reason why they want to push it, is because of that concern. You know, that a success is going to happen, and it's going to be good for the whole United Kingdom, all of the United Kingdom, all 4 countries. And if that happens, then the SNP would be finished, wouldn't they? So it makes you just wonder. That's the fear that they've got.
Yeah.
I've said it the long way round, people, and apologise. But you know, it's. I'm sure that's the reason. That's the reason why they're pushing and pushing and pushing for a second referendum, is because they fear if it all goes extremely well,
Yeah.
after a few bumps, then they know that they, you know, that one topic, you know, of independence that hardcore Scottish people have always stuck to like glue, will no longer be, not much of that will be present, and that will be the end of the SNP.
Well, the thing is, Graham,
They would literally have to revamp themselves, wouldn't they? And I don't think it would be possible.
Yeah. I think the thing is that the thing to take away from this is that, democracy has to be the forefront of any decision which is ever made. And I think with that, what we know, of course, with the Scottish independence subject is that we already discovered a referendum did take place on the Scottish independence of the United Kingdom. And although it was decided by the people of Scotland, or at least it was told, no, we don't want to leave United Kingdom, we want to be members of the European Union, members of the United Kingdom. And with that, unless of course there is enough information and enough of persuasion for a mandate for a further referendum.
I know, I totally agree with you, mate. I mean, the thing is, I'm almost certain that didn't David Cameron actually say at some point in the media that that basically, he didn't say these words, he's come exactly, but the route that I'm going down should sound similar to people.
Yeah.
That, you've got this referendum, basically don't expect another one for 50 years. I'm sure the term 50 years was it 25 or 50 years was sort of like brought in somewhere along the lines, unless someone has thrown it in within the media. Maybe.
Well, actually, that's a responsible thing. Even for David Cameron, I think that's a very responsible statement to make.
I'm sure David Cameron did say. I'm sure.
Well, maybe
the
viewers can pick
we
us
will
up.
check up on this, won't we, Ben? We'll definitely check up on this. And if I am possibly wrong with it, which may well be,
then the viewers will let you know, Graham.
Yeah, and we will definitely correct that. But I'm sure that it was stated that,
Yeah. Well,
referendum.
Graham,
you can't have another referendum, can you?
No.
For at least, I mean, normally referendums, aren't they? They're normally around about, about 15, 20, 50 years. So
it depends on the topic, but you can't have a referendum to leave the European Union, a membership of the European Union 1 year, and then a few years down the line have the same referendum, because actually that makes no sense. The people aren't going to change their mind that quickly. Because naturally the information that was laid out before us, I know there was a lot of question upon what was there for us to know, and yet although politically orientated or motivated, but the fact in the matter is, of course, it hasn't just been over the last 2, 3, 4 years that people have had the subject around the referendum and the European Union membership. It's been going on since the early days of the 1972, 1973, when of course this whole subject about joining the European Union came about. So it would be wrong to say, and very infuriating to say, that people didn't know what they were talking about or what they were voting on. In fact, they've had many years to actually understand how these things have worked. And of course, not everybody, certainly the younger generation, it's fair to say, would ever have known, because naturally it wasn't particularly broadcast, was it? Nobody knew who the European Union were until people like Nigel Farage and, of course, the government like Theresa May, or not so much Theresa May herself, but, we could go back as far as Margaret Thatcher. If it weren't for these people talking about this, then actually we would never have known anything about it. So I think it's so I think it's fair to say, Graham, that actually enough was known. I think it all depends on how much you research something. And, of course, when you do, you realise what's going on. For the youngsters of today, I would say yes, of course, they weren't maybe educated enough on the subject, simply because it wasn't a subject of debate. It wasn't a subject that I think society thought was an issue, although it's always been there. So, Graham, points towards
yes.
we have had a message come in, Graham, and actually it makes you, when we talk about electoral reform, Graham, I want to add that actually with the message that's come in, it does point towards, it's been suggested, proportional representation being the key to the way forward in political intervention in our environment, political environment. And of course it's very similar to what they have in Switzerland, which is how they politically align themselves. So actually that's something that we, I think, in the future could maybe see as a reality. The issue around proportional representation, how would that work? I think, first past the post system, I think historically has been a grey area. And we know that when we go back even as far as 2015, you take UKIP and you take the referendum, you take the UKIP, sorry, and you take the general election, and of course how many votes they got, and of course first past the post stopped them from retaining or should we say gaining government. And of course with that, you've got to ask yourself, Graham, haven't you? Is it right to have, when it's due, parties, regardless of their size or ability, to isn't it not right, or better, would you say, to have parties of smaller parties, fringe parties, if you like, to become eligible or able to be amongst the big fish to actually implement and to guide policy, because of course they are the silent minority that people aren't hearing, and they do mean something, and they do have a voice, and they should be. And I think with proportional representation, that will enable them to have that necessary voice to be able to express. But first past the post, what it certainly does, and we found that through history, is it enables the big parties to go forward and the little parties, the fringe parties, to be silenced. And that's where I think the political orientation in this country does need to be looked at. And I think it's fair to say, Graham, I think within the next 10, 15, maybe even 20 years from now, we may well just have a referendum on a form of proportional representation, but we will. See.
Yes, it will definitely happen. As and when it does, is another story, and it's a waiting game. But it will happen. It's got to happen. People move on.
They do.
Evolution and all that. It will have to happen. It's not quite working.
No.
The way things are at the moment.
And what's not working, Graham, coming on to another topic, is, and we talk about police again, and we talk about something slightly controversial, but something that has been in the news, and it's been in the news not just in the southeast of England, but also historically or naturally, currently, throughout the United Kingdom. And we're talking about asylum seekers, because we've noticed there's been a lot of movement with individuals travelling around the country, and of course moving to the United Kingdom to seek a better life, and for various different means. Now, we don't know just by detail upon why that's happening, because when we find individuals are looking for answers become silenced, or at least that's understood to be the case. And so where I go with this is that it's been understood that Russia Today, which is a media source outlet, have been under similar scrutiny, or some scrutiny, with asylum seekers. And of course they are trying to investigate the controversy around migrants living in hotels within the United Kingdom. And of course what we do understand to know is that there has been a number of cases where hotels across the United Kingdom, up and down the country, have been taking in migrants from Europe, and of course further still, and being put up and housed and looked after. And of course there has been some silence within that. And what we understand to know is that Home Office made a grave error, it was understood to be, that of course we talk of Priti Patel, and you mentioned her earlier, Graham. Priti Patel was apologised by the Home Office because actually migrants were situated within her constituency in hotels, and of course that was seen to be a considered error. But with that said, regardless of where that is, in London, of course we understand that it's not just in London we're seeing migrants being put up, but it's across the country. We've even heard situations in Hull where of course the hotels within Hull of course have also seen migrants being housed. Now Russia Today basically have come under some attack because of course they are, or have been, trying to talk about the story. And they are fully booked. These places, people are concerned because they are booking up to go into these hotels and they are fully booked, even though it's understood that there's no reason for them to be so. And yet, when people are trying to investigate it, they are not getting very far. And police have come in on this, and they are trying to stop, it's understood to be, media trying to gain information. But I think it's fair to say that I think if we are, as people, Graham, if we are to understand, would you not say that it's right that we are to be given information so we can try to understand? If it's being closed off, if people are being very secretive about this, or even the authorities, I'd like to add to the point, then how can we as people be able to freely be accepting this problem as it seemed to be at this moment in time?
Yeah, I agree. It is rather concerning, mate, with the whole situation going on at the moment. people's lives are at risk. We've touched on this subject before, and the fact that not the whole truth is out there, and then it takes a group of people to bring it to the attention of the nation exactly what is happening, and the media still do nothing. And now all of a sudden that they've started to report on it within the last properly report on it within about the last week and a half, haven't they?
They have, Graham, and that's it. And you're absolutely right in what you're saying. And we've had some messages coming in on the very subject, and thank you again to the viewers for doing so and intervening in the conversation. And what we understand to know from certainly from some of the viewers is it's because, and the suggestion has come about, is that because the media are unable to get information, and it's because simply there doesn't seem to be a solution. Now, we find this in politics, don't we? If media want a subject brought forward and there is no solution or any particular information to be given, then they are refused access to said information. And of course we understand we have a Freedom of Information Act, which of course should be upheld in all circumstances, under any circumstances. Yet when it comes to something like this, it's a very difficult subject, and there are simply no solutions, or at least from the government's point of view. The UK government don't have any solutions to this. But there are some politicians that I certainly know, and you, Graham, know yourself, who do have solutions to this, yet are not in the political power or position to be able to implement or to be able to push forward. And it's a sad reality, really, when actually we know that there are solutions that can be obtained, and yet certain politicians are not willing to seek those solutions. For whatever reasons, whether it's political or otherwise. And then it's a sad reality, but media should be able to report these things, and it is sad that they are being refused in certain situations when it comes to finding answers. It needs to change, Graham, doesn't it?
It does, definitely needs to change, mate.
Yeah, well, it does need to change, Graham, and I think there is an element here, and it's come through from some of the viewers have said, of course, that they believe that actually it's probably more likely because they are afraid or not particularly too kind to what is actually being said about its situation of the truth, whatever the truth may be. It's a very touchy subject, and there's very mixed opinions upon what people feel about migration. And of course, with that, I think the media want to protect people from the information because of the situation around just how people might take that information, and there's going to be mixed messages upon, or mixed feelings, should we say, upon whatever is being brought forward in the way of what is considered facts. So I think that's probably it, isn't it?
I agree.
The fact there's no solutions, I think it's more to the point is people are being protected because some people in certain situations don't want to hear the truth.
Most certainly.
Yeah. Well, Graham, I've really enjoyed myself tonight. I don't know about you.
So have I. It's been a really pleasant evening. It's been a stressful day, but it's ended up really nice. It's been nice to spend the evening with everyone viewing. And thank you, Ben. Thank you so much for being the host alongside me as well.
Well, don't thank me, Graham. Thank the viewers. Because if it wasn't for the viewers, then we wouldn't have a show, would we?
Yes, very, very true. Very true. But we can't hide the fact that you do an awful lot on the production side as we're going live. So,
well, from him,
thanks there from me.
That's Graham. And from me.
Yes. And from him. And from me.
Thank you very much. You've been watching the Ben and Grem Show, Small Talk, and we've had a great time, great opportunity to put this out to you, and we will be with you every Sunday, 7 p.m. on Great Britain TV, a new online TV channel, and it's for you, the viewers, and we hope you enjoy it. Isn't that right, Graham?
Yes, we do. Thank you so much for joining us on this voyage, and please like, follow, and share as wide as possible. Thank you so much, guys.
Exactly, because not only do we want you to know about it, you being whoever you are, male, female, or otherwise, we want your grandfather and grandpa to also be watching this, and your cat. Okay, so please like, follow, and subscribe,
Yes.
and we will be with you again, won't we, Grem?
Yes, we will do. Thank you very much, guys, again from me and from him.
And we'll see you next Sunday, 7 p.m.
We certainly will. God bless everyone.
Shh.
You